Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
And welcome into Life Planning 101 right here on KETX KWBY on this marvelous Monday morning. And we have Angela Kennedy Robinson with us as usual. Didn't get to ask you what our topic was, but I'm sure it's great.
Oh, yes. Of course it's great.
It's always great.
It's always great, right?
Great.
It's so great that we're going to talk about blowing up retirement plans.
Blowing up retirement?
Yeah.
Well, we're not talking about taxes.
No, we're not talking about taxes, which, by the way, we had a great dinner last Thursday night.
Good.
And turned out really good. Of course, I prayed all week, like I mentioned, choir. And that, simplifying down the tax code so people can understand two hardest things I think I've done in my life.
Wow.
But it turned out to be good. I do want to remind everybody.
Another one this week.
We have another one this Thursday. It's going to be the last one for a little while. So if you are especially a business owner, come. We're inviting every one of our listeners. This one's going to be in Fort Worth. Make sure you get on our website and you can contact us, www.kennedy-financial.com, or just call us. You can do that too. We're local here in Eastland, right. 629-3863. So 254-629-3863. I don't even give out our 800 number anymore. People don't use landlines. So
yeah, since cell phones came into being, long distance is...
Yeah. I think of the past. That's right. Yeah. That's right. So anyway, make sure you participate in that. But we're going to switch gears today, and we are going to talk about retirement plans blowing up. Okay. And I think, my gosh, I don't know how many shows that we've brought this up, but I was actually reading a study done by Allianz, which is a life insurance company, but they've been really heavy on the annuity side. So hence, they do tons of research and study for retirement, because that's who they're targeting. Their target market is retirees. And they actually did a interview for 3,000 retirees, and they asked them this crazy question. They said, do you fear death or running out of money most? And over 2/3 of them said running out of money, not death. Yeah. And, I really do believe that we kind of have an epidemic going on, because if you ask us, we ask other professionals that are in the same industry this question about what do your clients worry most about? This is it. They worry about their money. They worry about running out of money. And the truth is that, every retiree, and you can agree with this, has a different source of money and different priorities to spend their money on. Every single one of them throughout retirement. No one is exactly the same. However, there is a constant that is with all of them, is that they all worry about not having enough money to take care of themselves, do the things that they want to do, take care of their spouse if something were to happen to them, and also do all the things that their kids need them to do, or they think they need them to do, right? So it's like this balancing act. And how do you make all of this work? And how do you know if your retirement plan is solid enough? And, most people don't. And, one of the things that we do, we're real excited about, because we used to, there's something out there, and you probably, if you've done a retirement plan, you're aware of this. It's what's called a Monte Carlo. And it's actually done on your investments. And what it does is it sends you through thousands of simulations of times in the market. You started out your retirement, and then we had a downturn for over the next 5 years. Or you started out your retirement, and then the market went up for 5 years. Or you started your retirement in the middle of a recession. Or you started out your retirement. And it gives you thousands of simulations on what the market could do using historical facts and figures. And it provides a stress test alone to your retirement. And this is something that we consider extremely important when we help people look at their retirement. We've done a whole show, as you know, on the danger of just sequence of returns. You retire today and the market is flat for the next 10 years. What is that going to do to your plan? And it could affect it severely.
Yeah,
Significantly,
yeah.
right? And, I think it's funny. We got a phone call, last week, 2 weeks ago from a client that she's been a client for almost 20 years now. And the market went down in February, right? And so, of course, this is the first month and, 2 years without, her statement going up. And she said, well, I just want to make sure y'all know what you're doing. And the thing about it, the funny thing about it is it came to realization that we all get used to seeing a bull market and then we expect that to go on forever. In reality, it doesn't.
Look at history.
That's right. The market's meant to be volatile, right?
Sure.
And you take that and you take the same thing that you really do with your children. You expect the same thing that's going on now to be going on forever. Well, what happens if your daughter gets a divorce and is left behind? What does that mean for your financial picture? Yeah. And don't tell me you wouldn't help her.
Right.
I mean, anybody would help them, right? But is that built into your retirement plan?
That's the kind of things that you can't really
predict. That's
yes.
exactly right. What about, we did a show a couple weeks ago about Medicare running out of money. What if your health care costs double in retirement?
Right.
Is that something that you've stress tested on your portfolio, right? And fair to say that most people have not.
No.
They are trying to retire with the bare minimum, and here's why. You're tired of working. You want out, right? But at the same time, what do you want to do? My gosh, you've got this lifestyle of these go-go years, and the slow-go years, and the no-go years, and what does that really mean? How does that all pull together? And I think one of the things that, we bring to the table more than anything is that it's our experiences. It's the wisdom that we've gained from the people that we've worked with over the year to ask these questions, to build these stresses into the portfolio. When you tell us that you're only going to spend $6,000 a month out of your portfolio, we know that's never going to be true. Because it's always going to be more than what you expect it to be.
Absolutely.
And it's just because we've lived those experiences and we know what they are. So what we're going to do today on the show is we're actually going to go through these phases of retirement. We're going to talk about stress testing your portfolio, and then we're going to tell you how to do it at the end of the show. You don't want to miss it right here on Life Planning 101.
Segment 2 already of Life Planning 101 right here on KETX KWY. Angela, let's get to it.
Will your retirement plan blow up? I think that's a question that's a question I think everybody wants to know, though. We always say we have a sleep test, right? If you're not sleeping at night, you need to call us. And I think this is one of the greatest gifts that we get to give people is a peace of mind, in the sense that not necessarily that everything's going to be okay, but at least they know what they didn't know. And they know what their dangers are. They know how to protect them. We talked about a month ago on the show is there are some times that there is not a tool or an opportunity or something that is a worldly, tangible item that you can do to fix your situation, and you can only look to God.
Right.
But at least if you know that for a fact, you can find peace with it, with Him, right? And I think that's, one thing that we always have to remember is just imagine that you could at least be at peace with the fact that you know something rather than don't know anything at all. And I love this quote by Dwight Eisenhower. He said, plans are nothing. Planning is everything. And that's so true, because I hear people all the time say, well, I have a plan. Well, great. Do you know what your planning is all about?
Are you going to implement that plan?
Are you going to implement that plan? Because really, until you walk through this and you really understand and I go back to my grandmother's situation all the time. She kept a budget from the time that they retired in the 80s until when she passed away a few years ago. And it was the same budget that she had with my grandfather.
Right.
Of course, the dollars changed over time, but she still kept the same budget because she was planning all the time. And she never had to worry about money. She never did worry about money. She enjoyed her life and was able to do the things that she wanted to do. But because she was involved in the plan, someone didn't just hand her a plan and say, here you go.
Right.
That was important to her. So, generally what we see is that people go through 3 phases of retirement. Okay. They have what we call your go-go years. your slow go years, and your no go years.
Right.
Okay. And there's a lot of truth in this, but I think the biggest risk we're seeing more and more today is that, you have a much longer span for that retirement than my grandmother did, when she retired in the 80s. And that, my gosh, that was a 30-year retirement. Well, today, people want to retire earlier.
Right.
Okay. So let's say they retire at 55. And their life expectancy by the time they're 65 is now going to be 100.
Right.
Okay, so they may spend
45 years.
Right, which is way more than they did when they were working, right? Way more years out of work than when they were working.
Right.
So it's amazing to actually think about what you could go through. And I always say, imagine you could see your future unfold before it actually does. Wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be great to avoid some missteps and not fall down? And I think that's what planning is all about, is to be able to see those what ifs. How would my retirement plan be able to blow up, and what could happen? And I'm going to give you some examples, just of what we see through these different phases. So, you have these go-go years, and everybody tells you, well, plan to take 75 to 90% of your income that you had in your working years, and that's what you're going to need to spend. Okay, this is this general rule of thumb out there, and I guarantee if you've been close to retirement, you've probably Googled that. Well, get away from Google and get to your budget, because in reality, we see people spend 100%, if not more than that, when they first retire. These are their go years. Think of what that represents, right?
Travel
Yeah. You got a bucket list, right?
Yeah.
Think of all the things you didn't get to do while you were working.
And you want to do them now.
And you want to do them now, right? And you don't want to wait till your health is gone. And you've worked all these years, and I see this over and over again. People get to a point that they're just tired. And then when they finally get the energy to do something, my gosh, do they have a lot of energy. And their justification is, I've worked hard for this. I should enjoy this. And they should.
And they should.
They should.
I took a group of what we called senior saints, and it was me and 11 little women to Branson, Missouri on a trip.
11 little women.
Me and I
That's
carried
brave.
a lot of luggage. But and what you're saying, I had built in rest times when we got to Branson. Those ladies didn't want to rest.
No, they wanted to go.
Wanted to go.
That's right.
They were in their go-go years.
They were in their go-go years. That's right. So, no one should tell you any different but to be able to enjoy those years, because I wish there was a better balance. I envy Europe. I envy Europe for the way that they work, because they don't work themselves to death before they retire.
Right.
And in the United States, we have a habit of doing that. We have no such thing as work-life balance for the majority of people. And what that ends up causing is burnout.
Right.
And so, if that's been you, yeah, it's perfectly okay to want these years, if anybody hasn't told you that.
Right.
Right? It's perfectly okay to want to spend 100%, if not more, of what you were spending pre-retirement. But the key is you've got to plan accordingly. Because, again, today is the first day of the rest of your life. And what's most important to you? Is it seeing the Eiffel Tower, or making sure your spouse is taken care of if something happens to you? Is it seeing the Eiffel Tower, or helping your daughter if she does go through that divorce? And you've got to have those priorities aligned and be ready for if something hits you in the face, how you're going to deal with that,
right.
How you're going to plan with that, and what you're going to be willing to sacrifice. And I see that being the biggest thing. The hardest thing for retirees to do. When you're in your working years, it's really easy. Really, really, really easy. Well, I've only got this much income. I can only do this, right? I've only got this much in my savings account. I can only do this, because how many people really touch their retirement money before they retire? Very few people.
Right.
But they don't have any problem spending down that savings account, and they have no problem spending every dime that they make, right? But there's only so much of that. But once you crack that chest on that retirement plan, all of a sudden, let's just say that you want to have $80,000 a year of income. You got a $2 million chest you just opened up. Some people can't control themselves. Some people see that $2 million and say, I have money.
Let's spend it.
Let's spend it, even if they have earned it all these years. And it's not in a fact of, they don't know what it's for. They perfectly well know what it's for, but they don't understand the ramifications of taking out just that extra 1% this year, that extra $2,000, and how that can impact your overall plan. We just talked about on Thursday night tax economics and the fact that baby boomers are leaving the workforce, retiring by 10,000 a day, right?
Right.
Okay. So what happens when the number of people being taxed goes down?
You got to be taxed more.
You got to be taxed more. So you're kidding yourself if you think your taxes are going to be lower in retirement. They may be for times, but not all the time. And you have to be ready for those what ifs, just as well as the things that can affect your family dynamics, just as well as the things that you want to do on that list. And how do you balance all of that? As you're spending a little overboard, have you thought about it? Are you willing to tell yourself no? And my dad always has a saying, progress starts by telling yourself the truth. But you got to do it.
Right.
You can't just think about it. You got to do it, because if you leave your wife destitute, and I'll give you a perfect example. I was on a phone call last week with a client, and her husband has Parkinson's. You know what her biggest fear is? Him falling over dead. Not the long-term care. Him falling over dead, because she's going to lose 3/4 of her income at that point. And she says, what happens now, because we've spent all this money? Spent. Those were her words. It's gone, right? Think about it. When we come back, let's talk more about blowing up your retirement plan and actually showing you how you can get it done.
All right, we'll be back right after this on KTX KWBY. And we're back with the final segment of Life Planning 101. We're going to blow up your retirement plan and then tell you how to not blow it up.
That's right. Isn't that better to do it ahead of time than after the fact? And I think, that imagine that you could just see in the future and you could actually do that. And I think, that's what, more than anything, what a financial advisor should bring to the table is to show you those what ifs that could occur, right? So we talked about those go-go years and the dangers that are really there that you don't think about.
Right.
And then what about your slow-go years? These are the years that you actually are going to probably start spending more on medical care. And we just talked about, what if Medicare? What if the trust fund runs out? Well, they already said it's going to. But what is that going to mean for you? And then on top of that, inflation. And this is a big thing that people often don't build into their retirement plan or don't do it the right way. And wouldn't you rather overestimate what inflation is going to be than underestimate it?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when Social Security, do you expect that to keep up with inflation?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, right? So, if you're going to the store today to buy groceries for you and your husband and you spend $100, first of all, I praise you for being able to do that. Second of all, if you do that and you go next year, are you going to be able to buy the exact same thing that you bought this year for that $100? No. So what are you going to put back on the shelf?
Something that you don't need, I guess.
That's right. So,
some beanie weenies or something.
In retirement, that's what people end up having to do if they're on a fixed income. I hear all the time say, well, don't worry about your retirement. Buy annuities. Well, there's a danger to annuities. Annuities are fixed. They don't keep up with inflation 99% of the time. And the one that do, I promise you, cost a lot. So it doesn't mean it can't work, but it's going to be a more expensive retirement.
And simple things that you have no control over.
That's right.
A harsher winter than usual, which means higher utility bills.
What did we just go through?
Yes.
With our ice storm. How many dollars did you spend getting the trees out of your yard, right? Or the leaves?
Unpredicted
I remember someone
things.
telling me about the bags of leaves that they had to pay someone, and they just said, oh my gosh, next year I think I'll die trying to do it myself rather than pay somebody to do this as a retiree. But those are things you have to think about. And then those no-go years can get even worse, because Medicare surely doesn't pay for everything in those no-go years. If you're having to have help bathing yourself, dressing yourself, cooking, who's going to do that? Medicare's not going to pay for that. So what's your plan? Is it your spouse? Will they be able to do it? Is it that daughter? Is she going to put her life on hold to be able to do it? Do you want her to put her life on hold
or
to be able to
the daughter
do
that all of a sudden became a single parent with kids?
Exactly. Exactly. So there's a lot of risks there that you have to look at. And it's fine if you want to take it. But the biggest thing is, wouldn't you rather know that it's there than not know that it's there? Right. And I think that's where people often get confused. They sit there and worry themselves to death. And so I guess I'm on a presidential prime minister kick this morning. But I found another quote by Winston Churchill, and I love it. He says, "Let our advanced worrying become advanced thinking and planning."
Very good.
Think about that. If you just took all your worries and started using that as the foundation of what you need to plan for, wouldn't you sleep a little better at night?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you would, right? So what we've done, we spent a ton of money on technology. And one of the things that we are absolutely loving is just this, the way that we're able to do retirement planning today. As I mentioned earlier, that Monte Carlo simulation that stress tests your investments. We can do that with a click of the button, and it actually pulls up this little circle that says, you have an X% chance of success. What percentage are you comfortable with, right? 20%? 50%, 70%, 80%?
100%.
That's your percent.
Good.
Yeah, your percent chance of success. But wouldn't it be great to know that? And then on top of that, we can throw in all these what ifs we've been talking about. What if my daughter does this and I end up having this problem? What if I have to go on long-term care? What if inflation goes up? What if my taxes go up? And you can put all these scenarios in and watch that percentage change and see what you're comfortable with.
If you do this planning and those what ifs never happen,
great.
All the better.
And would you be upset with yourself for doing it? No. We often say, what would be an unacceptable regret? It's probably not the fact that you had too much money when you died. It'd be the fact that you were destitute, or that your wife was suffering because of it, or your kids were suffering because of it. Because I promise you, health alone, without the financial aspect, is unbearable for families to go through some of these situations that we've watched them go through. When you compound that with the financial aspect on top of it, just like the lady I mentioned that I spoke to last week, her husband's dealing with Parkinson's, and what is she worried about? Money. Is that what she should be worried about?
No.
These last precious years that she has with her husband? No, it's not. She may end up dying first just because of her stress.
Absolutely. You see that happen all the time.
You see that happen
The caregiver
all the time.
dies before
That's right.
That's right. The patient or the recipient.
And the funny thing is, so we ask all the time, what's the most important thing to you in life? And when we're sitting with a couple, very, very seldom do they not say taking care of each other.
Right.
Yet we build a plan that takes care of everything else, our wants, our kids' wants, everything else, but just that, right? And taking care of each other means blow it up, see what could happen, so you make sure that you've done just that, right? Be sure to tweet us at KFS Life Planning. Have you stress tested your retirement plan? Yes or no? Thank everyone for listening to the show this week. Make sure that you take a moment to look at your worries and think about how you can turn that into advanced planning, like Winston Churchill said. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services here in Eastland, Texas. Have a great week, and God bless.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Calton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.